Hey, hey, hey. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
How you guys doing?
I'm doing great, and I must say, every time I'm on here, you guys have an even better introduction than the previous. I mean that is just full blown Hollywood at this point.
That was a dear friend of ours, Jason, who, Patrick, you know Jason, and he built that for us. The intro and the outro for this season was
Man,
courtesy of him. So
kudos
pretty
to.
cool. When I was down in Lubbock last, that's my hometown, Patrick, and Joe, Sandy, and we decided to get together and do a photo shoot so that we could use those photos for intros, outros, and whatever else in between. And
Okay.
that's kind of where all those photos came from. So they're very recent. Well,
Awesome.
pretty recent. Yeah, man. Happy belated 4th of July, right? Because happy Calm Your Dog Day, post Calm Your Dog Day, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Poor doggos. How's y'all's days been?
Patrick,
I've
you
been
go
good.
first.
Sure. Thank you, Ben. I've been good. I'm still getting acclimated. I just moved into a new home about 4 days ago. So
Congrats.
thank you. So trying to get the family on a routine. It's like the last week has felt like a Friday. Every day has felt like a Friday. I'm going to Chicago in 2 days. So trying to get as acclimated as possible before I go on business. And it's just like, it's crazy. So much to do. I'm teaching 2 classes this semester. So it's just, it's pretty wild. It's been a pretty wild past 2 weeks.
And we're gonna get to all that later because you're coming up here to our neck of the woods actually. So
Yeah, man.
close to us.
Yep.
We'll get to that later. But anyway, what about you, Dr. Ben? How's it been?
I just arrived actually because we had quite an eventful day because so my daughter Natalia is having her quinceañera coming up pretty soon.
No way. That's
So
awesome.
it is awesome, and if any of the viewers are not sure what that is, it's kind of like a sweet 16, only it's for 15 in Spanish speaking cultures. But the concept really is, it's almost, I mean, it's Jaime, you can help me out here, but it's almost like I feel like I'm going through my wedding again.
Pretty much.
I mean, I feel like it's like a pre-wedding.
Really is.
And so she had to get her hair done and then her makeup done. And then we got rained on, of course, in Illinois. Yeah, that's going to happen. And then we were able to just barely finish off the shoot and got here about 8:10, 8:15. So it's been quite a day.
Quinceañeras are very hectic. They are definitely the practice run before the wedding, even though it's not the same thing, right? It's not the same event. It definitely has the same flavors, the same,
Yeah, I mean,
dress.
Exactly. We're contacting DJs, and I just feel like it's our wedding all over again, and so it's been eventful and a lot of fun. And then 2 days ago was my birthday, so we had a lot of stuff going on in the last few days over here as well, but all fun.
So you share the same birthday as Joe's son. His son is also on July 3rd.
But does he has one son?
He has one son. Yep.
Yeah. So he's not lying when he says his son looks identical to him. Wow. Yeah. Because I saw, just a couple of days ago, the pictures, and it's like, it's a mini me.
There's never a doubt.
Wow, mini me kind of situation.
His son.
That's awesome. Well, and let me just conclude by saying I really appreciate you guys having me on as a substitute. I'm always happy to be on the show.
Man, thanks for coming in last minute. That was so for our viewers and Patrick, Joe and Sandy are related through marriage. So if there's ever a family event and one's going to it, more likely the other is. And so that's what ended up happening is they double booked, didn't connect dots, and that's why Dr. Ben's here to fill in for that piece.
We're happy to have him.
Yeah. If it does so well tonight, we might have to make it permanent here soon, right?
or I could be a permanent sub. How's that?
We'll definitely take that. So you guys aren't on here regularly, and we've had some new viewers who've shown up through the last week or two. And so why don't you take a minute and tell us just a little bit about yourself? We'll go with you first, Dr. Ben, because if you didn't see the promo, everyone, we're going to be focusing on Patrick tonight. And before we kind of get rolling in his stuff, I want to give a moment to kind of introduce Dr. Ben, who has been a longtime friend of the show. He came in and we got to interview him, much like we're going to do tonight with Patrick. And I tell you what, I remember when we scheduled that first episode with him back in season 1, and we're now in season 6, that Joe and Sandy were kind of not impressed with the idea of bringing that cologne guy, which we'll get to later, onto the show. And they're like, oh, okay. And I was like, well, just give it a try, guys. The next hour, like, our faces were just sore. We were just like blown away by all the new information that Dr. Ben had taught us about colognes, perfumes, and ambergris. And so
there's a lot going on there, wasn't there?
There was. And so every time he's come back to help us out or just to be interviewed or hang out, it's always just been such a joy. So very glad to have him here tonight and hang out with us. But Dr. Ben, tell people a little bit about why we brought you on the show originally.
Okay, so originally it was because every Friday I have a YouTube channel, and every Friday I have an episode that comes out on, as Jaime said, perfume. So it could be, I should say fragrance, really, because it could be cologne, it could be perfume. Just really depends on what samples I have. And then I decided to put one episode out each Friday because that's about all I could do. I started in 2017, but really I started in 2019 as far as episodes every week. And then I will, on July 21st, so I've got 2 more episodes left. I'm going to hang up my That Cologne Guy YouTube skates, proverbially, and it's just time. It's time to move on to do something new. I've really enjoyed it, of course, but see, in the world of reviewing colognes, you have to be, one of 2 things need to happen. One would be that, number one, you get sponsored, which means, companies will send you $100, $200, $300, $400 bottles, and then you review them. And I can't speak for you guys, but I'll be transparent and say, if somebody sent me a 440 bottle of, Creed Viking, I would probably give it a pretty sparkling review. I mean, I admit it would probably affect, I couldn't be biased. I mean, unbiased, excuse me. So I was never sponsored. And then the second thing would be, I have a lot of subscribers who will spend anywhere from $200 to $400 a month on fragrance, and you heard that right. And I am just not one of those people. Yeah, I mean, I was able to survive so long just because samples. Or I had a lot of subscribers would just send me little decants or like little vials of them that would last for like 3 or 4 days, and I survived so long really on small samples like that. I was never really a collector, so to speak, and I was also, like, as I said, I'm not sponsored. So really, the writing was on the wall for me. I had a great time. It's been 8 years since that I've been editing video, because my daughter originally started on YouTube in 2015. She started, and then I jumped in, and we were making videos together for a number of years. And so it's just kind of time, to do something different. Yeah. Although I clearly go. But yeah, I enjoy what I do. It's certainly not burnout. Like I said, really, it's just, what am I going to do? I'm kind of at the fork of the road. Either I really plunge and, and start spending out a lot of money for it. And I just really don't want to do that. I want to enjoy what I have and leave it at that. So it's been a great run. And then these guys are so kind, because they always, so I am that Ben at That Cologne Guy, but they always call me Dr. Ben. That's very kind of them. They don't need to do that, but they always do, because they're kind. But
it makes us feel more important when we.
It makes them feel more. There we go. But I'm a professor at Illinois State, and I teach Spanish. And for a while, I was teaching Portuguese. Now it looks like it's probably just going to be Spanish, and I've been doing it since 2006.
Okay, that's new. Yeah. So what's crazy is you have 1.17 thousand subscribers.
I do, and I went over the 100,000 view mark a few days ago. So
What?
slowly, which when you tell my daughter and her friends that, they laugh, because that's pretty much what like Mr. Beast gets or whatever it is, like per hour.
Yeah.
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 But hey, I willed my way, because it certainly isn't good looks and charisma, but I willed my way to 100,000. So that was fun.
Very awesome. Very awesome. Patrick, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Patrick Hickey Jr. I am a husband. I am a father of 2. I am a college professor. All the business stuff, I guess, we'll get into later. But I am, as you guys can see, a avid collector of video games. The other wall that you can't see is books, and it's probably just as massive. I own a comic book company. I'm a voice actor. I've written 7 books on video game history. I've been teaching since 06.E02. That's so crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you in the East Coast somewhere?
Yeah. I teach in the City University of New York. I'm the director of their journalism program at Kingsborough Community College.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a
I thought
editor.
and are you from that area?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I picked up on an East Coast accent, so that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I'm a former NBC editor. I write for Old School Gamer magazine as well right now. So I'm a writer, a voice actor, a husband, a father, a nerd. That's pretty much me, like in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's a lot. So
That
what do
is.
you like to do for whatever little free time that you get?
The last 4 days of putting this room together have been a complete and utter joy, because the house that we were living in before, I literally had a cave. Like the wall went in that way. And like half of the stuff that I have out now was just like in boxes, and I could never take it out. So like the past 4 days, I've just like literally sat on the couch in here, and like I have Dawn of the Dead on that little Cinderella TV right there, and it's just like, oh. So yeah,
Little
this is
Cinderella
definitely
TV.
Yep. That actually
was that Dawn of the Dead or Shaun of the Dead?
Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead. Okay, good.
Yeah. Shaun of the Dead is awesome too, but Dawn of the Dead is Dawn of the Dead.
Absolutely.
But it's just yeah, man. Just I'm gonna be spending a lot of time in here. My daughter was hanging out in here with me today, watching the first season of the original Ninja Turtles cartoon. So and we were playing with the iToy yesterday on PlayStation 2. So we were playing Karaoke Revolution on PlayStation 2. So it's been so much fun the last 4 days that like I finally have like a workspace. Like all my comics, like for my comic book company, are right here, so I can do all my packing and stuff right here. This table is really nice. I got my little bonsai tree and my little Groot hanging out right there. My little my Yoda, and I am like completely like I'm
You're in
in
your element.
my happy place. Like,
Yeah.
It took 39 years, but I finally had the happy place.
So, congratulations. That's great.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm going to be spending a lot of time down here. A lot of my friends were like, "Oh, we're not going to see you that much because you moved." I only moved like 25 minutes away, but it's like it's completely different. I live on a quiet block, like my kids have their own rooms, so I'm just so I'm teaching online over the summer. So it's just like I wake up in the morning, I have my coffee, I tell my wife I'll see her in a couple of hours, and I come downstairs, I grade papers, I speak to my students and stuff like that, and it's so good.
You can connect with that, Dr. Ben, can't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you so is it synchronous or asynchronous?
I'm teaching right now for the summer. I'm teaching 2 classes asynchronous. So I just put the work up. I go on the Blackboard every day, check papers, interact with students, make sure that they know that I'm there. I record a lot of lessons too, and record a lot of feedback because I feel like they get more hearing it from me than just me typing. So I spend about 3 or 4 hours a day doing that, like Monday through Thursday during the summer.
Yeah, 2 classes, 2 summer classes. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. But wake up nice and early, get my steps in, come on down here, throw on a movie. It's so sweet. That little crappy Cinderella TV. I bought a cable on Amazon that actually goes AV to HDMI. So I actually watched WWE Money in the Bank on Saturday on that TV. So it's just like I'm having way too much fun.
That's awesome, man. Though I love it.
It's been great.
I'm with you. We moved here about 2 years ago, and I haven't even started getting everything ready on here, but I have got my comics everywhere, and I can't wait till the walls are covered in them. And I am in exactly like you. I'm in my place where I'm like, yes. Like I look at every wall and I can be like, I am encouraged. Like I don't know if you can see in the background over there. There's some Superman. I have like a little. Can you see over there?
Oh, very nice. Yeah, man.
So those are all the well, they're not all the foils, but I do love the Superman Shield issues that they've been releasing, and so
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I feel you on that. Is the magazine that you're talking about? It's oldschoolgamermagazine.com.
Yeah, I've written for Old School Gamer Magazine. Whew.
I'm putting that in the chat, everyone. So however you're watching this, you should see the link there for Patrick's magazine.
At least 5 years I've written for them, like since their first issue. I've been there since day one. So
I'm glad to see
4 articles a month for them.
So I can start. I'm going to save it and bookmark it so I can come back to it later and whatever I need to do to enjoy that.
It's a really cool retro video game magazine. It always comes with a full poster and stuff like that.
Oh, from back in the old days.
Yeah, man.
Wait, so is this a physical print?
Physical and digital. Yep.
They
just did a Kickstarter, and
we need a Pong poster.
I know. Oh, that.
Okay.
Awesome.
Check everyone when you get a chance. Check the link out. Save it. Go watch it later. And it's been playing over here on the side. It's hard not to watch it because you can see Frogger. You can see Super Mario Brothers, the original Super Mario Brothers. You can see Galaga on there. So there's games that are just flying by. Asteroids.
Yeah, they have digital, physical subscriptions, all sorts of stuff.
That'd be cool.
They're going to be at the con that I'm going to be at this Saturday as well. They're going to have a table so you can go and get the con edition of the magazine and stuff. There's
That's sweet.
Stuff there. Yeah.
Okay, so oh my gosh. So just real quick, you can get a digital subscription for $20 a year. It says here.
Yeah.
For a digital.
And they deliver all the PDFs to you.
Yeah, just go check it out, guys. There's a membership page. It's like $50 a year for the print and digital. That's so worth it to me.
The magazine's like 65 pages too. It's pretty beefy.
Oh, so it's nice. It's a little chunky.
It's very nice.
Little chunk.
Yep.
Awesome. So Truck G came in earlier. He said, "OG gamer, a man of fine taste." And then he came back and says, "Pro wrestling too, my kind of guy. Yep. I love how we all have our spaces."
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've done ring announcing in pro wrestling before.
You did? Get out of here.
Yeah. My master's thesis was on pro wrestling. I trained to be a pro wrestler for 2 weeks. I almost died.
No way.
That's intense. I got you beat though because I tried vegan for a week. Just a week.
I did vegan for a week too, and my wife told me, she was pleading with me. She's like, "Please have a burger. You're a nasty bastard." I'm like, "I know." Sorry.
It does something to you. It messed me up too, man. I was
when I was vegan for about 5 years actually, and here's the thing though, I really wasn't, and let me explain.
He was a daytime vegan, and nighttime he had cheeseburger.
People will ask you, it's like one of those things, like when you say, if you say a certain religion, then it's like sometimes people think like you must follow everything of that religion. That's kind of like how it was, because I would allow myself one cheat day a month, and that actually really worked well for me. And I would go out and get 8 cheeseburgers.
I need 1 hour a day to make it as a vegan.
It's hard. It's hard, man.
It is challenging.
Like G says, that's awesome. And
if I was single, I probably would have stayed vegan a lot longer. But it was just weighing the positives and the negatives, and it's just no,
it's not practical in a family unit.
Yeah, it's like my family. Sometimes they'll be like, "We need to eat healthier," and I'm like, "Yeah, I actually have no problem with that." I'm like, the problem I have is if I stock the groceries with healthy food, no one eats it, and it all goes to waste. I can cook it, I can prep it, but it'll still be there. And so then that's why I'm buying frozen vegetables, frozen meals at times. And they're all like, "That's not the good stuff." I'm like, "I know, but when I get the good stuff, you don't eat it."
It's a challenge.
I don't know what else to do. So anyhow. There was something I was going to say. Okay, so I want to get into talking about you more, Patrick. So before we do that, to kind of just prep up and loosen up and everything else, here's what I want everyone in the chat. Your top 3 favorite superhero or comic book movies. Okay, Dr. Ben, I want you to think about it too.
Ooh, the comic book.
Superhero movies, and it could be TV shows too. So if there's a TV show or a miniseries,
Okay, because this is not my strong suit.
And that's okay. This is dealing for
Patrick. In the
more.
private chat here.
No. Here in a minute, the three of us will share ours live, but in the chat,
gotcha.
We'll tell theirs, and so we'll give Dr. Ben a little bit of time to think through it, and everyone in the chat to think through it too, and then Patrick, you and I, we'll start it off since I think we're a little bit more closer to it than most, right? So maybe this doesn't have to be your absolute favorite, but what are the top three that come to your mind first? Do you want to take
initially
first?
The Crow.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yes.
I mean, it's one of the best. It's one of the most influential independent comic books of all time.
James O'Barr is freaking a master.
And the movie just nailed it. So from the soundtrack to Brandon Lee, let's not talk about Edward Furlong or any of that other stuff. But that first Crow movie, something special.
You know what? The Crow series I thought did well back in the 90s, supporting it. And Mark Dacascos, who, if you don't know the name, recognize his name, he was the what was it? He was the main guy for American Iron Chef. He was the nephew, the role they played as the nephew. So he's an excellent martial artist, and he weirdly looks a lot like Brandon. And so when he played the Crow in the TV show, it was like weird. But anyway, good one, Patrick. Good one. Number 2.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Everyone forgets it's a comic book. It was a comic book before it was a cartoon, before it was anything. So and it's also I believe up until a certain point it was like the highest grossing independent film of all time.
Yes.
It was recently broken. I forgot what movie broke it, but yeah, man, that movie was huge when it first came out.
Huge,
and so much fun. So from even 2 and 3 were great, but like that first one,
it really put its foot in the ground.
Yep. And the first movie really echoed more of the cartoon than the comic, but there was enough of the comic in the movie that really made me happy when I was a kid. So those are definitely 2. Yeah.
All right. Do you have a third one?
If I had to go like right off the top of my head, I'm gonna go something a little bit more underrated. A movie that I really enjoy, even though I know a lot of people don't enjoy it that much. The Watchmen.
Okay.
Movie? I mean, I love the movie. I love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And there's so many obvious choices, but it's just like what The Watchmen was able to do like 15 years ago. I mean, in 2 hours, The Watchmen could have easily been a 6-hour film. It could have been like The Godfather. There's just so much meat to get off of that bone. And from the soundtrack to they nailed Rorschach.
Oh man,
they nailed Night Owl's like aging, changes in life that he was going through at the time. Trek is saying Dark Knight too. Dark Knight was so good. Like I said, there's so many obvious choices, but like I like to shed light on stuff that maybe people have missed. So that Watchmen movie, I totally suggest people check that one out.
Very cool. Okay. Dr. Ben, did you find yours, or you want me to go?
Well, so I have a couple. I'm assuming Scooby Doo was a show first, and then a comic book, so that it doesn't count. Yeah. Okay. Is Resident Evil a comic book that was made into a movie?
It was
a game first.
So that one doesn't count either. Oh man.
But it's still good. I give both of those legit marks, though.
Well, I love Resident Evil. I told you guys. If you said you would include TV shows.
TV shows too. Yep.
Well, then I love. Well, I love the '60s Batman.
Oh yes.
The holy hole in the donut Batman. The cringy. That's
got a special place in my heart. I don't. Care
about it. Okay. All right. And then I also love the late '70s Hulk.
It's classic.
TV show. Love that, and I to this day actually, I wonder if one of them maybe had some health problems because I'm surprised it didn't go on further.
Yeah, so Lou Ferrigno, the guy who played the actual Hulk, he does conventions across the country and signs
Oop, I think he freeze?
I think he froze too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That or Jamie's holding in a fart.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He's right though. Jamie's right. Lou Ferrigno was on the convention tour.
Oh, cool.
Like,
that'd be fun to meet
literally,
him, actually.
Yeah, all the time. And he's built like a goddamn animal. And I'm not sure if you've ever watched King of Queens. He was one of the characters on King of Queens. He was like the main character.
Kevin guy was like
Kevin James.
Yeah. Okay.
He was Kevin James's like neighbor, and oh my god, so funny, such a good actor. Oh, welcome back, Jamie.
He's back.
Sorry.
So then, if you won't take Scooby-Doo or Resident Evil, I guess my third one is Wonder Woman was a comic, wasn't she?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to tell you, Linda Carter is. I mean, I will admit that my bronze medal goes to that just simply because she was my celebrity crush back then.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That was a great show, though.
It really was. It really was
so
a great
fun.
show.
It was
well.
so fun. Yes,
Sure.
agreed. All right, for me, I would say number one, in no particular order, honestly, but just one. I'm gonna say Spawn, the animated series.
So good.
Jeez. Like you want guys, I think Spawn, the animated series, was way ahead of its time.
Super ahead of its time.
Oh my god! Like even what, 30 years later, about 30 years later, it still holds up as a fine work of art. It's so brutal. It's so compelling. It's definitely by hands down. It's rated R, so it's not for a young audience at all, but it is excellent.
I'll check it out.
I have them on DVD right over here. I'm going to watch them tomorrow now. See what you did to me?
Yeah. It's so good. It's one of those, if you need something to binge and you're like the cartoon, you like the adult animated type stuff, you need to put Spawn on there. Even though it's old, don't let the age fool you. The story is so
story's great.
Well, let me can I just ask you a quick question, you guys? Tron was the same way. Tron was not a comic book first, correct? So that would also not count.
It was the film, then it was the game.
Then it was the game. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And then Disney, actually, I reviewed it probably like 15 years ago. Disney released a graphic novel for the new film that had come out and stuff
Tron
like that. So
Legacy.
So it's got
some. Have a new Tron. There's another new Tron coming out.
Well, is it? Because it's kind of like
was awesome.
It's kind of like the Honda Element, which I have and I love. It's dear to my heart. And every year they say Honda's going to bring back the Element, and then every time I read, they're bringing back another Tron. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like I'll see it when I believe it.
I'll see it when I believe it.
I agree with that. Okay, number 2. I love how you did it, Patrick. Go with the obscure stuff that people don't normally see and watch, kind of thing. So with that, I'll stay in the same vein for my second one, and I'm going to go towards. I really enjoyed the original The Punisher with Dolph Lundgren. I thought it was actually when I first saw it, I was like, holy geez, this is awesome. And I was a Marvel fan by then. And so to see Dolph Lundgren as Frank Castle, and it definitely had that early 80s, late 80s, early 90s vibe to it, like RoboCop and I Come in Peace and different things like that. It was good. I think it was worthy in its time. I don't know that it aged too well, but for you, that if you can handle classics, it's a great movie still.
It's definitely better than the late 80s Captain America and Fantastic Four films. So
we don't talk about them.
Yeah, I know we don't talk about them. They're like Bruno from
those were and then final, I'll go with a favorite of mine. It was a toss-up. I was either the close runner-up was going to be Wildcats, the cartoon, but I'm going to go with the Max that showed on MTV for a while.
You're so funny because you told me to bring things that meant something to me. So are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Dang! Wow!
It's Max number 1.
Wow!
Dude.
Yep, it's funny because there's a cover too of the Max number 2, and it's actually what inspired. Hold on 1 second. The cover of Conjury 2, like the shadow.
Oh my gosh!
Like that. So yeah, man.
That is so funny, Patrick. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah,
we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, we are, and so that's a cartoon that came out. There was like an animated Power Hour of some kind on MTV, right? remember they were doing Beavis and Butthead, Daria, and then they started
Yep.
doing the Max.
Yeah.
They did what was the other one? The Head. Remember the Head? But the Max was so it's really hard, not hard to follow. I don't know how to say it, but you gotta. It's good. It's good. It's different.
It's weird, but in the best way possible. It's like a hard-boiled, like it's like a hard-boiled version of like Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Yeah.
You know, like there's one scene where like the bad guy is like holding this hostage and the Max just like shoots the hostage and the bad guy's like, you shot the hostage? Like it's just like the Max is just so freaking cool.
Yeah.
You know?
It really is. It really is. The art was fantastic on the comic. The art, it translated into the animated show so freaking well. And
you're gonna make me take it out of the plastic to show.
Are you? Oh my gosh! Hold on, let me get him on the big screen.
Hold on. Oh my god! I see ads and stuff in here. Hold on.
I can't. It won't let me.
Like, look at all of these panels on just like one page. Like, you would never see that anymore. Like,
here's what I do. Oh my gosh! Yes. I love it.
That's the Max.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, hold on. I'm gonna try and find something sexier, like a splash page or something like that. Oh, like, look at how the women were drawn. Oh,
dude, I'm
so
telling
good.
you, it was like a little dash of heavy metal in there, and then you know, just it's really hard to say, but it is a worthy. It was a worthy show and a worthy comic book. Yeah, I think actually on your Facebook page, Patrick, someone had posted up some Max issues that I never knew existed, like a silver and black one of that same cover you just showed. I was like, what? And there's I think there's another one, a purple one, I think, or something. There was some sort of colored one, and I was just like,
it's crazy.
What? Yeah, man. I'll check out the episode tonight on YouTube because I've never heard
worth
of it.
It's really good. Yeah, and the Izzes. I remember I took forever to collect the Izzes from McFarlane. And when I finally got the bag of black ones and the red ones, I was like, yes. I was so excited about it. They were so hard to get. Anyway. Let's see. Yeah, you said Trek G. You mentioned yours were Dark Knight, which is excellent. And Batman the Animated Series. You can't go wrong with that. And Spider-Man 2. So do you mean Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2? Or actually all of them have Spider-Man 2 now. So which one do you mean? Clear that up for us, Trek G.
And Sam Raimi, that's the same Sam Raimi, or if I'm thinking
Evil Dead.
Evil Dead, the original. Okay, all right, good.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
You
directed
are
the first
a horror kind of guy, right?
I'm doing my best for you guys for the comic books, but I am a horror film and metalhead. So
yeah. Trek G said, yeah, Lou is always at the Arnold Festival here in Columbus, Ohio. Oh, you're in Columbus. Okay. Wait, I feel like I know someone in Columbus. Trek G, very nice. That's a buddy of ours. And then here in Encarnacion, we call him John. He says Mr. CCA. So I'm going to start a comic book shop soon. Okay.
Oh.
And it's going to be called CCA, thanks to John. And that's because it's no, not CCA. I think it's CA, Comics Anonymous. You know how you have.
So will this be a brick and mortar store?
No, all digital. All digital.
Yeah,
all
it's
digital.
the best way to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Trek G. Yes. Sam Raimi. Okay. We've done a lot, but you have. I wanted Patrick because I told Patrick because he and I are comic geeks, like to the hardcore. I asked him, let's bring out a few of the comic books that we each like and just
cool,
show them off and stuff. So he showed off one already. Patrick, go ahead and go with the next one. Is that X-Force 1?
Yes, sir.
Is it still in the poly bag?
I have one that's in the poly bag right underneath me with the Deadpool card. This is my second one. This is my reader copy. So this is the one that I take out. And,
dude, legit. I remember when that came out. Legit. That's a great issue.
So, yeah.
Okay. Is it the whole team you like, or was it Cable and Deadpool?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So those are just a couple. I got a couple more, but I want to see some of Jaime's.
Okay. So I did. I'm gonna show you something new. I don't know if y'all have seen, but this one is Astrobots. This just came out.
Oh yeah.
It came out about a month ago. You said.
Yep. And the cover, it's a foil, but this cover they call them homage covers. Homage, and that means they do the cover in a previous artist did a cover whenever ago, and they're doing a version of it. So this is taken from Transformers issue 1.
Yeah.
So that's this one, I'm a big fan of Ghost Rider. And here is an original one
very nice.
by Neil Adams. So this got to my house.
Rest in peace.
This delivered to my house the day Neil Adams passed away. And I was like,
wow.
Oh my God. I was like,
no one draws Batman like Neil Adams, man. And then his Ghost Rider is pretty badass too.
I love his Ghost Rider. Look at those. Look at the skulls. Like this was from the 70s. And look at that, man. Seriously. Neil Adams. I'll show one more, and then I want you to show another one too, because I'm impressed. This is a newer one too, but I wonder, Dr. Ben, if you're going to get the reference to this one. This is an homage cover also, but not to a comic book. I'll just say it's to a movie.
Okay, is that a movie? Yeah, it's not a comic book. Man,
I will say it's a horror movie too.
Yeah, I was going to say it, but I don't think it is.
So it's an homage cover. This is Deceased 1, or 5. I'm sorry, 5, and it's an homage cover from La Llorona.
Oh, okay.
So,
believe it or not, I have not seen that movie yet.
Neither have I, and I won't.
No, you won't, but I will definitely be seeing it.
I do. So just for reference, Patrick, I was tearing up this room looking for my comics from you, and I cannot find them. And I'm more.
It's all good.
No, I think they may be missing.
Jason's talking crap in here.
Oh,
is this just going to be Jaime showing his collection? I love it.
And what if it is? What if it is? Trek G says, I was thinking earlier when you guys were talking about the Max. I remember it. That's the other. That was another one. Good
Iron
call,
Flush,
Trek G, yes. Oh snap! With my boy Cable, the real Cable.
Yeah, I love me some Cable.
Oh, you do? Okay. Yes, Jason, and you're here.
Yeah, I'm a big Robbie Liefeld guy. I listen to this podcast every week, and he's awesome. So.
You know what? I was listening to some of your, and we'll get to that later too. I was listening to some of your podcasts this weekend, and I was like, "Hey, calls him Robbie." I was like, "Who's Robbie?" At first, and then I was like, "Wait a minute, his name is Rob." I was like, "Okay," so it just tripped me up a little bit. But anyway, look. Everyone, I know we've been talking a lot of shop here, but I want to start getting down to the nitty gritty. Oh my gosh. You are like, you get me, Patrick. Okay. Let me just say that you get me. The words that are not being expressed verbally right now.
That's my favorite one though.
Aw. So save that to the side, because we're definitely going to talk about that in a minute here.
Sure.
So there's a special story about that.
Can I just ask? I just want to ask you real quick. Is that how you met Patrick? Was through comic books?
Sort of. So he was on Patrick was on Jason's show.
Okay.
Close for You. He was a guest over there, and I was going nuts over it just because I love meeting, people who are directly in the comic world or adjacent.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what some of the stuff we're talking about with Patrick tonight. So some of the things that I can share that I know from Patrick about Patrick is he is the editor-in-chief of Legacy Comix. Legacy Comix publishes this comic book called, and if I'm pronouncing it right, Condry, sorry. It's Condry. And I'm always going to support people who are working towards their goals. And that's what Patrick was doing. So I was like, hopped on his website, Legacy Comix, and I was looking for a comic to get. I had heard Condry, so I was like, I'm going to go ahead and grab that. I love the art of the one that I got, and I was like, okay, because I traditionally collect comic books more for the art, although I do plan on reading them.
Okay.
And when I saw Condry, I was like, oh, it definitely had the image, 90s image vibe to it, Sin City feel on it. You know, the grunge, that Judge Dredd feel to it, and I was like, oh, I like this. I'm liking this. And so I picked that comic out. I swore it got sent to me.
I think you got the one in one of the 1 in 50 hologram covers.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure
I wanted to get one of the premium ones. So anyway, that's what Patrick does. That's one of the things he does. He's also, I didn't know this until later, he's a voice actor, and the game that he does is it called The Padre or El Padre?
The Padre, but then also WrestleQuest is coming out in like 3 weeks, and I do 90 voices in that game, so it's like it's pretty wild. So
wow,
Padre was like
so you're a voice actor for video games?
Yeah.
Oh man, that is so cool.
Yeah, it is. And then I want to talk a little bit about also the books that he's
Sure.
published. And so we'll get that tonight too, but know that he is an author. And guys, there was so much stuff that Patrick does that I was like, I can't list it all. We're not going to have enough time to go over it all, but the man is a genius. And
I try.
Sandy, Joe, and I, we always talk about the guests that we bring on the show, much like Dr. Ben. Patrick and Dr. Ben belong to this group that we happen to find all the time where talent is just immeasurably sprinkled upon people in this world. And these are two of the people who it's been sprinkled on. Nothing like myself. Nothing.
Oh, come on.
Hey, I appreciate you guys coming on and letting us shine the spotlight.
Patrick hasn't seen it. Check out Jaime's speech at the TEDx talk. It's X, correct? Am I saying that right? Yeah, he gave a talk that can move mountains. Okay, so I'm not gonna. And he gave another talk at his. I think it was your church in Texas, if I'm not mistaken, right? That you sent me.
I've done those there too. Yes.
Yeah,
I am happy that when you go to tedtalks.com and you put my name in, I do show up, and it is something that brings me.
You're very gifted
joy
at doing that. You're very gifted at doing that.
Thank you, Dr. Ben. Thank you. But I want to put the spotlight on you tonight, Patrick. So with that said, which one do you want to talk about most first?
I'd love to talk about the comics first.
Let's go for it.
Sure.
So you are not just a comic enthusiast, but you decided not just to consume comic books, but to also create and contribute. And how did you decide to do that?
I was 18 years old. I had gotten in a serious car accident. And I had a lot of time to read. I was already, I think for an 18-year-old, pretty well read. Love Shakespeare, love Dumas. Like, I just love to read biographies and backs of baseball cards. I would memorize stats, and I was always reading lyrics in the back of albums and stuff like that. Like, I just love to read. So I spent even more time reading and listening to music and watching film and stuff. And I really got engrossed in noir and old crime shows like Columbo, and sci-fi like Highlander, and all those Image comics, Spawn and the Max. And I just came up with this character, this homeless vigilante that is trying to find out who killed his father. And then you find out that like the person that killed his father basically runs all of New York City, and it's just like it's like the one man against like everything kind of mentality. But then what happened was I was 18 and I can't draw a lick. I'm a writer. So I went to college for journalism, and I went through like 4 artists, didn't like any of their stuff. It wasn't singing to me. I knew I needed somebody specific, and I just tabled it. And every 3 or 4 years I would come back to it. And then probably around 2019, I'm like, enough. And I went on Facebook. I'm like looking for an artist, and I met Kieran Quinn, and we did a 6-page proof of concept, and we sent it to Dark Horse and Image. And then right after that, COVID happened, and no comic book companies were signing like any new talent. So It didn't matter that I had, by 2019, 3 published books and over 2,000 libraries, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, UCLA, Berkeley. They didn't care about any of that stuff. They didn't care that I was a former NBC editor. They didn't care about any of that stuff. I was a new guy in the comic book industry. Then what ended up happening was I interviewed Mark Burnell from Lesser Known Comics for my entertainment website that I own and have operated for about 15 years called ReviewFix.com. And at the end of the interview, he's like, if there's ever anything that I can do for you, let me know. And I'm just like, nah, dude, like, you just started a comic book company. You need help getting the word out. I have a nice following on social media. That's what we do. You're giving me content for my website. Like, we're good. I get off the the line with him, and I'm just like, I should send him that script. So then I did. And like 25 minutes later, he's like, yeah, we need to sign you. They did Conjury 0, 1, 2, and 3 with myself and Kieran. And during that time, I just thought that I could do it better by myself. I didn't necessarily agree with their business model. They paid me very well, but I just thought, you know what? I think I could do it better. I think I could help other people get published. And so I just put my money where my mouth was, and we went to Kickstarter, and we got 300% funded on Kickstarter, and we were just like off to the races. So now we're on Condry 5, but we've done 2 spin-offs as well, and then I write also like 5 other series for Legacy that I would have never gotten the opportunity to do at lesser known comics. Like I have a comic for Legacy called The Job that I'm super proud of. It's about a pro wrestler that loses every match. He's a jobber, but he has great gear. He looks like $1 million, and his valet, the woman that comes with him to the ring, she's a knockout. She's beautiful. She also happens to be his wife, and everyone's like, "How? You lose every match. How did you get the girl?" And then he's got this beautiful car. So everyone's like, "How? I don't understand." And no one understands. And they rob banks together. Him and his wife rob banks together. And his valet, his wife, is the getaway driver, and she's kind of like the brains of the operation. And it's so much fun. It's a ton of fun. So I have another comic called Brooklyn Bleeds, which is a zombie comic, but it's actually about how pets deal with the zombie apocalypse. The animals are the main characters. They are the narrators. They're the only characters.
Check that out. I haven't gotten it yet, but every time I go on the website, I keep looking at that comic. I'm like, I need to get it sooner than later because I love that you just spun the concept on its head.
Totally inspired by like Romero and like The Walking Dead, but just so like we'll put it this way, it's just like there isn't like a character that's like, oh, it was a dark and stormy night or whatever. Like it's the dog speaking, so the dog will be like wet outside, dry inside, like so it's just very visceral and very noir and very old school, and it's just like Carl Antonitz, the artist on the first book, did a great job, and then we've done 3 spin-offs since then, and we've got another 2 spin-offs being worked on right now. So it's just like, again, I started off with just one comic, but then I leveraged kind of like my publishing background with my video game books, and I used that to my advantage to start. We're basically a publishing company now. I have 5 writers signed under me. I have about 15 artists signed under me, and I've managed to leverage too, like my video game voice acting opportunities into it. So like we've done comics based on, we right in the middle of our Kickstarter, Bram Stoker's estate reached out to us and they asked us to do a Bram Stoker's Dracula prequel comic, which Renfield. Yep.
Renfield.
And that was way before the movie came out. That was a year before the movie came out and stuff like that. So and it's based on,
I didn't know that part. Congratulations, Patrick.
Yeah, really.
And it's based on unpublished notes of Bram Stoker as well. So we did that. We did a wrestling book based on a documentary that's out. A wrestling documentary. They reached out to us. We've been doing some really cool stuff, and it just started from some 18-year-old kid that wrote a story, and now fast forward, I'm a 39-year-old that does all this other stuff. But like it's been pretty wild. It's been pretty crazy, but it's a lot of fun at the same time.
I am beyond majorly impressed with your story. Just
trying,
like, what in the world? Like, I mean, it's the epitome of, like, you see these movies being made about like the person who's not so much as going against the big guy, but has a great opportunity, but then it's like, it's not that I just want a great opportunity. It's like, I want to control. I want to create. And instead of just doing a story, which is fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. You wanted more. You thought you could do it better. And there's so much to be said about that, Patrick. Like in this world and age, we are so good at telling ourselves no, or we're not good enough, or it's already out there. How am I going to anything like that, right? But your story is exactly why we can do it. You know what I mean? Like there's enough pie out there for everyone.
Oh yeah,
Patrick.
I mean, I run social media accounts for other comic book companies. I consult other comic book companies all the time, and like they're like, "Oh, aren't you worried? Like their book is gonna sell more than mine." Blah blah blah. And I'm always like, if you love comics, you buy everything you like. It's never
Yes.
like, oh, well, I need this one or this one. It may be like, all right, I'm going to get this one now, but next week I'm going to come back and get that one. You know, it's like there's plenty of space for everybody to succeed.
You don't need to be,
you know?
and it's kind of like that old adage, right? It's like Marvel or DC. I'm like, it's whatever I like. I'm not.
It's like both.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I was going to say too was it's also kind of a nice story of the so Patrick's also in academics, right? So you know how it is when you turn in a manuscript and it gets slammed. You know, you really have to shelve your ego, and not everyone can grow a thick skin and just keep plugging away with the same, you know, ideas that he clearly believed in, and with good reason, because it bared fruit for him. So kudos to you, because you know, you submit things when, you know, in the beginning, and then, you know, someone will tell you it's much better if you just stop doing that. And
I remember when I was working on my associate's degree, and I had an amazing journalism professor. His name was Brian McDonald. He wrote this amazing book called My Father's Gun. He wrote this biography on Louis Saka Alexis, he's actually the first minority to ever play professional baseball. He's Native American. In the 1890s, they actually named the Cleveland Indians after Louis Saka Alexis.
So I didn't know that.
When they changed the name of the Cleveland Indians, I was like, guys, do you have any idea what you really did? You know? So obviously the mascot was racist and stuff, but the notion of naming the team after this one player because he was Native American was a wonderful thing. But anyway, like I totally idolized this teacher, and I was doing great in his class, and he was like, "You're going to be a great journalist," and blah blah blah. And I remember one morning, he would always sit in the cafeteria before class, and I showed him Condry, and he was like, "Listen, fiction's really hard, and you're a really good journalist. So why don't you just stick with the journalism?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, all right." And 20 years later, I did a signing last year at the biggest comic book store in Brooklyn, Bulletproof Comics, you know, and last year I sent one of my writers to New York Comic Con. He signed at New York Comic Con.
Wow.
You know, so I mean, you know, so I would never tell anyone I told you so. I tell people this all the time. I am never someone's first pick, but I'll be their best pick, you know? So that day when he told me that, I was just like, okay, all right. And I stayed true to journalism. I mean, my 7 books on video game history are all interviews. They are totally journalistic endeavors. You know, thousands of articles on my site. NBC, I covered 2 Olympics. I covered the Romney-Obama presidential election. I covered the Trayvon Martin murder case. I covered 3 seasons of Saturday Night Live. So, like, I did my due diligence, like, as a journalist. But it's just, like, I feel like if I would have never done the comic book stuff, it would have always been, well, what if? And there are so many people out there with ideas. I get pitched stories literally every day. People are like, I have a story for a comic. And I'm like, okay, don't tell it to me. Send it to me. This is how I want you to send it to me. Send it in 6 to 8 pages, blah, blah, blah. Give me a manuscript. Give it to me just the same way you would give it to DC, Marvel, Image. No, I want to tell you the idea. I want to tell you. And I'm like, no, do not. Don't. Yeah. You know, so I don't want to be one of those people, because I remember when my first comic came out, and even when my first book came out, people were like, oh, yeah, I always wanted to write a book like that. And I had an idea to write a book like that. And people, they justify to themselves, you know, and it's just like, I never wanted to be one of those people. I never wanted to be one of those people that enjoyed the smell of my own farts, you know?
Yes. I hear you, man, because I think it's, you know, it's nothing close to yours, but I'm doing this transition in life right now where I am training to transition my career into cybersecurity. I've been in IT
you told me.
Been in IT for 19 years. I'm transitioning to this, but there's so much that I'm coming to struggles with, right? Because I'm like, man, it's something I've never done, and all this, and so there's all this, you know, negative. I'm my own worst enemy. Then there's all the stuff that I see out there, and I'm thinking, surely I can't. But then I keep telling myself, and I keep telling others who are in this program, like, look, the pie is big enough for us. We just have to be willing to go get it. Like, we might get told no, we might get hit on the ground. That's okay, but it's out there. It's right there. We can do it. And every day we take a step closer to it. Every day we say, yes, I'm going to keep I'm going to keep training. I'm going to keep teaching myself. We're getting closer and closer to that becoming our world. And that is exactly how, as you're talking, that's what I'm seeing. I'm like, and it wasn't that it was like you didn't have necessarily.
He froze.
He froze again.
Yeah.
While we're waiting, I'll just say it's kind of like what Kobe said, right? Kobe always said you have to be willing to do what others won't.
Yep.
So you got to do whether it's getting up at 4 a.m. or staying up until 4. Are you? You said you're a morning lark, I think you said.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like old day, to be honest. But like, yeah, I try and get all of my work done by like 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh wow! So I tip my cap to you, my friend.
This way, the rest of the day, if whatever you get done is just good, it's just pie,
Wow.
So it's just
I need to take notes then.
It's hard.
Yeah, I think Trek G said it really great here. So cool that Patrick bet on himself.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. It's like every day. It's like I tell my team, we have a Facebook chat, and I tell them every day, share your links to your books, talk about your books, and it's just so many people. I feel like so many people feel like in writing, completing a book is the finish line. And it's not.
Yeah.
It's not, because you have to sell. And especially in comics, I mean, I pride myself in the fact that, like, and I told my wife this when I started the company, if our Kickstarter would have failed, there would have been no Legacy Comix, because I refuse to mix good money with bad money. I make a solid salary as a college professor that I can support my family and stuff. I'm not going to take food out of their mouth to support my comic book company, So it's just like, there are so many horror stories out there of people just spending so much of their own money funding their comic book dreams. And like, I can sit down right now and 100% say that I have only made money in comics. It's not a lot of money, but I have not lost a dime of my own money in comics. And I've been working with 3 or 4 other.
And let me sign up.
Well, that's the thing. It's like there's right off the top of my head, 3 comic book companies that I talk to once or twice a week, where I've reached out to them and said, listen, I ordered books from you. Do not send anyone books like this ever again. Send them in a Gemini mailer. Put all of your comics in a bag and board. Your printer is, how much did you pay for your printer? Blah, blah, blah. No. You need to go with this guy. It's just like, I'm definitely trying to like help people find ways to save money and to do this the right way. It's just like, I had somebody the other day, they ordered like 2,000 copies of their first comic. And I was just like, you're going to have a basement full of comics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so I luckily, like, for, I would say the 3 months between me leaving lesser known comics and like Legacy fully getting off of the ground, I just nailed down a business plan with my former co-owner. And I was like, we do not deviate from this plan for like the first 5 years. Like, we can't afford to deviate from this. And then what had happened was, after like 8 months or so, he was like, oh, well, why don't we do this? And why don't we do that? And he was trying to deviate. So, I am the sole owner of Legacy Comix now. And we're in a good spot.
More power to you.
So yeah.
Okay. It's so hard to continue the conversation, because it's like there's so much that you've said, and it's like I can unpack so many things there, or we can move forward. So I'm going to choose to move forward on you, Patrick.
Okay.
Not because I don't want to continue talking about those things,
sure,
but because there's so much that you have to offer. So you mentioned earlier journalism. You mentioned publishing 3 books before you went to the comic book company. Tell us about this series. Yes, tell us about this series that you've done.
So the name of the series is The Minds Behind the Games. They're pretty beefy. They're about 250 pages each. What they are is a collection of interviews. Each book is a collection of interviews with video game developers, where they talk about the behind-the-scenes stories that made their games possible. So we can go from Atari, E.T., Yar's Revenge, to Metroid Prime, to Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So it's just like, I've got 7 books in the series. The minds behind the games, the minds behind the adventure games, the minds behind the sports games, the minds behind the shooter games, the minds behind the Sega Genesis games, the minds behind the Sony PlayStation games, and the minds behind the Sony PlayStation 2 games. So each book has over 30 games featured, and in each game is its own chapter. So it's really good that like you don't have to read the book in order. You can kind of bounce around and stuff.
Yeah.
But each chapter has about 3 or 4 people interviewed that worked directly on the game, plus me as a journalist doing a ton of research on the game. So they're really fun behind the scenes stories of games. And the cool part is some of these games were panned by critics, and I have people call me up and go, I should have never ever bought that game or played it, but I read the chapter and the game's actually not that bad. I really enjoy it. I really like it now. Blah blah blah. And
funny? That's funny how reading backstories or something adds this new layer, and you're like,
yep.
I get like that with music. Like there'll be a song I can hear and I'm tired of it, but then I watch the music video, I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's like I'm hearing it for the first time again.
Or maybe when you hear what the song's about or something. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I used to have a segment on Review Fix called Behind the Song, and I'd interview people and they'd tell me about their music. And luckily, like I got some really cool people. Like we talked to Donald Glover. Corey Glover. He talked about Cult of Personality, and I spoke to Don Felder.
Living Color.
Yeah. And Don Felder from the Eagles. We talked about Hotel California, and that stuff was so much fun. And then it just got to the point my wife was about to give birth to our first child. It was like Halloween of 2016, and I'm just like, I've never written a book before. We got to do something about that. And I was sitting in my old man cave, which was like this tiny little box, and I was just surrounded by games, and I just started taking games off of the shelves. And I'm like, if I can contact these people, it was like 6 games. If I can get in contact with these 6 people and write like 6 sample chapters and use that and send that to publishers, I should be in a good spot. So this was Halloween of 2016. By Thanksgiving, like less than 3.5 weeks later, I had gotten interviews with all 6 of those developers. Yeah. And I wrote the chapters already, and it's so funny. My wife was out like a light. She's pregnant. The tryptophan was kicking in from the turkey, and I just started sending in pitches to publishers. And 3 days later, McFarlane and Company were like, "You want to do business?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." And that was 7 books ago. So 7 books in the last 6.5 years. So
I want to put up a link for everyone to go check out. Where would you like me to point them to?
That's just, I think the link last time I gave it to you didn't work, but that's been fixed. So it's Patrick Hickey Jr. I love your dog.
Yeah, sorry. She's
that's okay.
She's been bothering for like 5 minutes to come.
I could hear her patting around.
Yeah,
she's pattering around everywhere.
If you saw me looking down, she wants to be. Yeah,
it's all good.
Yeah. So
I'm looking, Patrick.
She just wants attention. Well, think about it too while you guys are looking that up. Remember that show? I don't think it's on anymore, but Behind the Music.
Yeah.
Remember that one? I mean, how many times did you? Yeah. I mean, how many times did you watch a show like that and then immediately jump onto YouTube and start looking up their old albums and stuff, and then you just find yourself getting into these bands either for the first time or again.
Yep, absolutely. Like I remember specifically like the Mamas and the Papas episode, and the Fleetwood Mac episode, and just being like, I love those bands anyway. Yeah. And now I have such a greater appreciation for everything that was going on. So good. But yeah, that definitely played an impact on the books.
So I want to just real quick, just rewind just real fast, because I was looking for the link. Send me the link because I can't find it. But I want to show off the comics that Patrick did. Sure. So here's Condry issue 0. I think. See, I think this is mine. And I can't find it. I'm really upset.
I think Patrick's going to get like a text at like 2 a.m. From him saying,
I found it. I couldn't go to sleep. I'm tearing up the room.
You can blame it on the ferret. How's that?
And then here's 0 again. Here's a variant with the foil.
So that's Kroom, actually. Kroom is actually it's based on a video game.
Okay.
That I wrote the story for. And what happened was a developer had read my first book. His name is Pete Paquette, and he's a lead animator on films like Ice Age, Rio, Horton Hears a Who, and he also was a lead animator on BioShock Infinite. He's worked on Overwatch, Madden, and he was just like, bro, like this was right before Padre had just came out, and he was like, if you want to get involved more in the video game industry, let me know. And I was like, I'm letting you know. So I wrote the story for this game, and then COVID happened, so it kind of like really slowed down the development cycle, but we're still developing the game. And so I decided to kind of like, to keep us hot, I did a comic book version of the game. So this is kind of like a teaser, but it's a lot of fun. So it's just like, imagine if Link from The Legend of Zelda had a gun too.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of like the way the
That's
game
a reference.
plays. It's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, man. No kidding.
Yeah.
I just need to find these. They're somewhere around here. I really am. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think you got both. I think you got both of those and Renfield. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's why it's so weird, because I can remember. I can remember opening my Gemini mailer and be like, "Ooh, closing these," because I was upstairs. I don't like to keep the comics out in the sunlight too well. So in my room, there's no windows in here. So and it's nice and cool down here. So this is perfect control for comic book keeping.
Yeah,
so,
man.
Yeah. Anyway, where is that? Did you send that link? I want to make
sure
it's just.
I sent it in the private chat.
Gotcha. Okay. Here we go. So everyone, I am posting up Patrick's link to get the books, the minds behind the games. And Patrick, I am going to be collecting these and adding these to my library, because I do love reading, and the whole premise behind your book series is phenomenal, right? So tell us, you've got it's not just picking out the games, but you've actually got some different themes in them. Tell us about those real quick.
Yeah. So the first book was kind of like a du jour. It was just a little bit of everything, and then I wanted to do a number 2, and pitched my publisher, and I had like 25 chapters written already, and my publisher said no, and I went, wait, what? And they're like, no, you have like the beginnings of 3 different books here. Oh, they're like, why would you just want to do a sequel? And so they signed me to a 3-book deal. So we did an adventure book, all adventure games. Then we did a sports book, which is one of my favorites. It's all sports games, where I got to interview like the founding fathers of electronic arts. It was so freaking cool.
Wow, that would be fun. Wow, I bet you were just a 12-year-old kid again.
Seriously, Don Traeger, Michael Brook, like just some of my favorite video game developers of all time. Then we did a shooter book, which is all shooter games, which it's so funny. It's my least favorite genre of video games.
Like first-person shooter?
Yeah, like it's just, I love Doom and I love Castle Wolfenstein and stuff, but it's just like it's the same thing. But then
it's a big grind.
having to play these games before I did the before I interviewed the developers and stuff, I just grew like such a greater appreciation. And of my first 4 books, I would say the shooter book is probably the best like reported one. I feel like the interviews are the strongest in that one. And then after that, then I decided to have some fun, and I did a Sega Genesis book.
That's I love the one Sega I want to read.
It's so good. It's super strong. I mean, I got Riko Kodama. She recently like just passed away like 2 months ago, but she was like the first lady of video games. She worked on Altered Beast. She worked on Sonic 2. She worked on Phantasy Star.
Oh my gosh.
She worked on Skies of Arcadia.
Yes.
I mean,
dude,
she's just a rock star.
This is awesome.
I was lucky. That one of my buddies was a PR guy for Sega, and he had got me hooked up with them, and Sega helped so freaking much in this book. They gave me high res pictures, and they just them getting me with Rico to speak to her for a little while was fantastic. And then I did a PlayStation book and a PlayStation 2 book.
And I can't wait for those. I want to know also real quick, is there going to be, or have you already gotten anything Final Fantasy related?
So in the PlayStation book, I actually interviewed the lead localization manager and the lead one of the lead testers for Final Fantasy VII.
Really?
And it's one of my favorite chapters that I've ever written, because he tells the story of imagine this, a room of like 50 men playing Final Fantasy VII at the same speed for like 2 weeks.
Wow.
Just bug testing it and making sure that like all of the dialogue translates properly and stuff like that. So one of the men that I interviewed was in charge of overseeing this entire process, you know, because the game was developed in Japan.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. Many Japanese developers see their work as something that they don't necessarily need to talk about. You know, it's like it's something that they did. They don't want a lot of like limelight and star power for it. It's just what they do. They don't want to really like talk about. But the American and Canadian developers and the Australian developers love to talk shop, and those
like,
are like
give me
a
the
lot of
mic here, guys.
developers.
Let me tell you something.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, think about it.
Yes.
No one probably asked them.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's such a unique perspective for them because they're the behind the scenes people.
Yep. So, Final Fantasy VII.
Trek G. Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game of all time.
So Trek G. Listen to this. So, this guy's overseeing like 50 people playing Final Fantasy VII, and all of a sudden, one guy is like, "No, no, no," and then another guy's like, "Oh shit, oh no, oh man," and then another guy, and it's just like boom, 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 boom. So the localization manager is like, "What is happening?" And they're like, "He killed her," and he's like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, Sephiroth killed Aerith. So it's just like this guy was in a room with like 50 other players.
Hard memories, Patrick. Why are you doing that?
They witnessed the death of Aerith for the first time. This was the first time Aerith was killed in the United States.
You're writing about that?
Yeah, it's in there. The book is out. The book has been out since. From their perspective, yeah.
Oh my gosh!
And it was so cool, like that he told me that story. And yeah,
Dr. Ben, in video game history, there has never been an event prior that shocked people. It was in this scene alone where everyone is like, just like what he's saying. I remember as a little kid seeing that happen and being like, "What? Oh my god!
Huh?
Oh my god!" and freaking out and putting the controller down and just being like, "What just happened?"
So I'm gonna read off the table of contents in this PlayStation book,
okay.
And if you're not like completely inspired, then you can message me and you could slap me in the face.
Okay, okay, all right.
Okay, you ready? Spyro the Dragon, Crash Bandicoot, Tomb Raider 2, Pac-Man World, Pitfall 3D, In Cold Blood, Tenchu Stealth Assassins, Treasures of the Deep, Aquanauts Holiday, Siphon Filter, Army Men Sarge's Heroes, Alien Trilogy, Apocalypse, Future Cop, LAPD, 007 Tomorrow Never Dies, Disruptor, C12, Medal of Honor, Soul Blade, Knockout Kings, Jet Moto 2, Cool Borders, Sledstorm, Rallycross, WWF Warzone, ESPN Extreme Games, NBA Live 96, Triple Play 97, NHL 98, NFL Game Day 98, Parasite Eve, Spider-Man, Nightmare Creatures 2, Road Trip, Warhawk, Courier Crisis, Brain Dead 13, Team Buddies, Driver, Grand Theft Auto 2, Twisted Metal, Final Fantasy 7. I mean, guys, I
never expected you to say Parasite Eve. Oh my God, Patrick.
So I'll tell you another quick story really quick. One of the lead level designers of Parasite Eve he's from Hawaii, taught himself Japanese by playing Japanese games.
Wow.
I'm starting to cry, man. I'm going to just tell you right now. I'm starting to cry, and I am flooded with emotions of nostalgia in the past. And I'm just like, it's really hard right now to contain everything because that you just listed off amazing games. So
I just want to say too, I don't want to sound like Billy Mays, like Billy Mays here. There are so many video game books out there where it's just like, it's a coffee table book where it's like chock full of pictures and it's just the author's opinion. I'm a journalist for close to 20 years. There is not one place in any of these 7 books where I'm like, I think this is the greatest book of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is not an I in any of these 7 books. These are as unbiasedly reported as humanly possible. They are for if you love to read. That's why they're in over 2,000 libraries, Harvard, Yale, Stanford. Like this is like they're being used in video game design courses in a bunch of different colleges in the United States. So it's just like if you love video games, like these are like the books like for you, you know? So yeah.
Patrick, if you're gonna do another one, I just want to drop 2 games real quick, maybe 3.
Mm-hmm.
I just if it just happens to slide somewhere and you're like, oh, Hannah said this, JPineapples said this. Here's what I want. If you could find the guys for Dino Crisis, Absolutely love that game. Okay, so if you can do Dino Crisis, I'd appreciate it. If you could also find Onimusha, like not just the first one, but the whole original series.
I have a motion activated Onimusha sword for PS2.
Shut the front door, Patrick. You're like my spiritual brother or something. Good Lord.
Crazy.
I would say
there looking like an idiot going like this, but it's so fun.
Are any of them Dreamcast, Sega Dreamcast games?
Ooh. There's a few Dreamcast games, like NHL 2K. I interviewed the people that did NHL 2K.
Do you? All right. NFL Blitz by any chance?
Yes, NFL Blitz 2003 is in my sports book.
Okay,
but it's like we talk, obviously have to preface talking about the success of Blitz and how it led into 03. And 03 is a funny story because 03 is just for consoles and it wasn't in the arcade. So like all of those developers were rock stars in the arcade.
Yeah.
And then when they had to develop on consoles, it was just like it was a completely different ball game. That game. NFL Blitz 2003 was still a great game. It got reviewed very well, but the thing is, it came out after the Super Bowl that year.
Oh,
okay.
So those guys, they couldn't deliver because a console game you have to make deadline. An arcade game can come out whenever. People will play it regardless.
That's true.
So
yeah, good point.
So
in Dr. Ben's, his inspiration, is there a Resident Evil reference anywhere in the books?
Tons of Resident Evil references. Because a lot of those guys have cross-pollinated and worked on different games and things like that. So there's a bunch of Resident Evil. One of my favorite survival horror games of all time, The Suffering. I don't know if you've ever
Oh my gosh, yes.
On the Xbox. That's in, I'm pretty sure that's in the Minds Behind shooter games. Oh no, it's in the original Minds Behind the games, and then we did The Suffering 2 Ties That Bind, the sequel, which is so good, super underrated. That's in the shooter book.
Agreed.
So if you guys like Fallout, because I brought some games with me too, because you said just pick stuff.
There's
Dawn of the Dead.
And then these are like two of my favorite games of all time, Fallout. But in the first book, I got there was a game before Fallout called Wasteland, and it's the same exact team, but what happened was they lost the license to Wasteland, so they just decided to create an entire new series, and they named that new series Fallout. So for me, getting that in the Minds Behind the Games was super important to me.
Yeah, kind of finding.
Oh God, the new one is Born for Blood, Back for Blood.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what the first one is. Anyway,
Bloodborne.
No, not Bloodborne.
No, it's not Bloodborne.
No, it's the one. It's something for Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead. And then the company, I don't think the license expired, but the company got shut down. But then the developers came back to do Back for Blood, which is the spiritual successor to it because it's the same team. And it plays just like it.
Ben, you're a Resident Evil guy?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm going to show you something. This is like really cool.
I am.
And Patrick, while you're doing that, I'm going to catch up on some of these comments real quick.
Okay.
Let's see. Right here, we'll start up here where Daywalker was saying, I'm truly blown away.
Whoa, look at that. Man,
is that a game?
So this is Sweet Home. This is basically like an NES version of Resident Evil. The same creator, the same. You never heard of this before?
Yes, it is.
No.
Totally worth checking out. Like if you love Resident Evil, this came out like a good 5 years before on the NES. Capcom made it. It's fantastic. It's a first person.
Okay, there's a reference.
It's like a first-person RPG survival horror game made by the same creators of Resident Evil.
Cool.
So, I hope that's somewhere so I can emulate it, man, because I need to play that.
Oh yeah, you could definitely get the ROM of it.
Okay, awesome. Mm-hmm. All right, Rodimus, he says, "I'm truly blown away. How have I not heard about Patrick?" Right, Rodimus, I hear you. My coworker Kaushik, hey man, he's here tonight in the comments. Trek G says, wow, I wonder how those guys that he interviewed feel about the monstrosity that EA has become today. Do they mention anything? I bet they don't. They can't.
They do. It's just it's a different time, Yeah. These guys, a lot of the guys like that I interviewed for like the Sega Genesis book and the PlayStation book, they were once you finished the game, it was over. There was no patching, there was no microtransactions, there was no DLC. It was just a different time. Like I interviewed the lead programmer of the original Grand Theft Auto in my adventure book, and the game almost wasn't released because it couldn't pass like Sony's quality standards. The game would crash after a certain amount of time and stuff, and they worked tirelessly going over like every line of code until they found like the one thing that it was, so this way they could release the game. Nowadays, if there was like that thing that the game crashed, they would release the game anyway.
Yeah, they would.
You know, they would sell it, and then they would still obviously try and fix it, but they would still release the game with a bug.
Yeah,
and you just
I think today, how do we live back then with Nintendo? How do we live with bugs in the system and keep going, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you guys an example. E.T. on Atari 2600. All right, it's considered
Infamous.
one of the worst. It's considered one of the worst games of all time.
Yes.
It's not. But the thing is, it's only 4K of RAM. The game.
Wow.
Okay, but that's a nice amount of assembly line, assembly coding. Howard Scott Warshaw probably had it memorized. The entire game's code had it memorized in his head. I mean, those guys.
Isn't that something, man?
Those guys are amazing. Those
Mad
original
respect,
game developers.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Mad respect. Wow.
Well, it's not, I mean, for them, it's an artistic endeavor, right? And that's why to be imagine to be behind the scenes, so you're never really asked about what your experience until somebody comes along and finally does. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Trek G, this is in follow-up to his Final Fantasy being his favorite game. Ares, probably, yes. So that's what we were talking about. Which, real quick, I abandoned the Final Fantasy VII remake because I didn't like all the cursing they did. It's not that I'm not against cursing.
Oh yeah.
It's the game felt like a bunch of teenagers just found curse words and were throwing them everywhere. And I was like, is this really the kind of writing we're doing for this? Like, did it deserve this kind of writing? And so I dropped it. It wasn't until I recently, like about a month or two ago, learned that remake and the upcoming part 2 are essentially alternate reality versions of the original game. So they're not remaking the game. They're actually splitting the game off into, hey, there's actually a multiverse of Final Fantasy. And I was like, now my mind is blown away. And Final Fantasy VII Part 2 is the first, or it's technically the second PS5 game to have 2 discs, but the first game, it didn't need 2 discs. That was a marketing stunt. And I think it was Grand Theft Auto, the whole bundle. So Final Fantasy VII 2 is the first PS5 game to actually utilize both 250 gigs discs for both discs for the full game, which is insane amounts of data and huge. So,
well,
I'm hoping
you said Final Fantasy VII 2. So help me out there. Why wouldn't it just be Final Fantasy 8?
So imagine taking a movie, and let's just say any movie, and then you split it up into however many parts you wanted to tell the story. That's what they did with this game. So they're splitting it up into several parts so that they can. I thought it was a cash grab at first, and I can't say it is anymore until I play it now. But
sure,
with this second one being as huge as it is, so Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation, and Patrick, correct me, I think it was also the first PlayStation disc to have 4 discs.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I can't think of another game.
Games afterwards had multiple discs.
Yeah.
But before, none had it.
Yeah, and not on the PlayStation.
Insane. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just catch up still again real quick. Trek. Yep. Here we said Trek G. I cried not only because it was so shocking, but because she was the best magic user and had all my. Oh my gosh! Yeah, when she died with the materia, it went all with her too. It was like, what?
Wow.
So yeah, it was video game moment like number 1 almost up there. What a list, classics. That's in response to when you were talking about, or when you listed off all the games.
The table of contents.
Yep. Yes, sir. Some very good games. Trek G. Daywalker, that was the golden age of PlayStation games, man. That list was incredible. This whole section, I cannot wait to get these in. I'm going to collect these so that when winter comes, I can read them, Patrick, because, I don't know where you are. I can't remember. I think you said Washington.
New York City.
New York. And so, during the winter, it's a little bit more to get outside. So I'm like, I don't mind holding in with some good books and reading during.
They're great on the train. You can read a chapter in about 10 minutes. So,
Oh, man, I can't wait for this. So I know we're getting towards that end, and I know we still wanted to talk about another one, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time and not keep going on. And Patrick, I think we're going to have you come back again so we can talk more about the voice acting. And
yeah, that's fine.
And we'll be able to add more of your accolades next time, because This was phenomenal, man. I had no real clue to the depth that I'd be able to hear from you. I want to tell you, man, your message about kind of how Trek said, betting on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest piece I'm going to walk away with tonight, is like what you can accomplish. Everyone, what you are able to accomplish if you just believe in yourself and not get swayed away from being knocked down once or twice or three times. There's a monumental accomplishment waiting for you on the other side of that last fall down, or however way you want to say that, right? Like if you just get back up after that last fall, there's something great waiting for you. And I think, Patrick, you highlight that in life very well. You showed us tonight, in my opinion.
Thank you. I'm just trying to channel my my inner Matt Murdock. Daredevil's always been like one of my favorite superheroes, just because I mean he gets beat up, you know, but he always comes back up, you know. So it's just like, I mean, small microcosm. I got promoted to assistant professor last year, and I finally got like, my own office and stuff. Thank you. But it was just like forever. People were like, oh, you just stay a lecturer, you know. And I'm writing all these books, I'm doing all this voice acting, and it's just like you could hear a pin drop. Like my chair didn't care, no one cared, and then I just met somebody that cared, and then now all of a sudden things are, you know, completely different.
So are you tenure track now then?
Yeah, tenure track assistant professor. So
congratulations.
Man, thank you.
So I feel a little left out because y'all both are in higher education. I'm like, dang it.
You're not missing anything.
My wife just started her new job today. She's in higher education.
Congratulations.
Yep. So she started over at IWE today, Dr. Ben.
Nice. Yeah. That's a big deal. I'm very happy for her. And real quickly, I'll just say thanks again for having me on tonight as the substitute. This was I had seen earlier who was going to be on. And then I got the message real quick, and I just really wanted to show to help out. But this was riveting. This was a fantastic talk.
Agreed. Patrick, before we let you go, I'm going to give you some time to kind of share whatever you want to share. If it's your grandma's favorite chocolate chip cookie recipe, or a place everyone needs to go in their life, or whatever case, I want to give you time to do that. Before I do that, I want to tell you, I'm putting this out there. If you have advice for someone wearing a yellow shirt tonight who wants to do something in comic books, they're probably not a good drawer or artist, but they want to do something in there. Maybe you could help give them some ideas or advice on what might be useful for them. Okay, so just think about that, and I mean, I could tell you right now if you want me to.
Oh,
go for it. Yeah, let's see. Maybe.
Yeah, it's funny because I just did a podcast. So I have a weekly podcast called Talking Comics, and a lot of it is talking to people that want to do stuff in comics. And I just did an episode like 2 weeks ago where I was just talking about, listen, finish what you start. If you have a story, do a 6 to 8 page proof of concept, and then go out and look for an artist. It took me 18 years to find the right artist. I think if Instagram would have been around longer and social media would have been around longer, I would have found somebody a lot sooner. But the whole thing is, it's just like there are so many artists out there that can't write, that are looking for you. So you just have to look for them, you know? So go on Instagram, go on Twitter, start looking at all of these artists and tell them, listen, I got a story, you got the art. Let's do a profit share, 50-50. I can't pay you to do the art because I can't go broke trying to produce this. But if we work together and you share the stuff on social media and I share, and we do podcasts and we do this, we can build something really strong. And I'll never forget, like, when I sat down with Kieran for the first time, and I was just like, listen, we're probably not going to make any money doing this, like, in the beginning, but we have to be able to stick together and be on the same page. And I'm going to do as much as I can to market and get us opportunities and stuff like that. I'm like, I just need you to draw like the best that you possibly can. He's like, I got it. He's like, you'll handle all that marketing and all that other stuff. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, perfect. You know? So the thing is, like, you're a good talker. I mean, I'm sure you can write. No, it's no problem. You never have to thank me for telling you the truth. Write your 6 to 8 page, proof of concept, like a short little bite-sized chunk of that character, and then start looking for an artist. If you want me to send you like a template to follow to make it look sexy, I am more than happy to do that. And then you just start going shopping for an artist. You go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, and you go in all these groups and stuff, and you just start talking to people, and then you get them, and then talk to a publisher.
Patrick, do you need an agent?
I would love to have an agent.
But I mean, in the comic book field, when you say like to turn in a manuscript, I'm assuming when they turn in their 6 to 8, and I can't remember the term you used, the
Ashcan. Yeah, it's like any comic under like 24 pages you consider like an Ashcan. It's like a shorter comic.
Okay.
Thank you for defining that for me. I did not know that.
So most of the people who submit manuscripts to you do not have an agent, correct?
Don't have an agent or anything. No agent. So like luckily, like one of my best friends is a lawyer, and she helps me write the contracts for our writers and artists and stuff like that. So I always make sure like everyone is like on the up and up and stuff like that, because so many people think they're going to make like millions of dollars,
right?
Like, and it's just like, no, you're going to make like 40 cents a comic, like that's, and that's, I mean, Marvel and DC, like those guys fought for years to get like 1% royalties,
right?
Yes. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, should they have an agent? Maybe, but then the thing is like too, an agent is probably going to get like 20% of like whatever you make, and maybe 20% of what you're going to make is like, you know what I'm saying? So especially with indie comics, if you're smart, you could totally do it. You could totally do it by yourself. You just have to be smart. And my advice to people is don't do anything without a contract. Yes. Even if it's your friend. Like, no, that's one of the reasons why I left lesser known comics, because like they had signed me to like a 6-month contract. And after like the first month, they're like, oh, well, we can't afford you anymore. I was like, well, that sounds like a personal problem because you signed a contract with me. And they were like, oh, well, could you do less work? And da 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 da. I'm like, no, I can't. I'm like, so you're going to pay me out of this contract. And then if you want to renegotiate my next contract under new terms, we could do that. And then when my contract ran out and they wanted me to kind of be like
available
and like, oh, don't worry, like we'll take care of you. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good, I'm done. So I make every person we have under Legacy is signed to a contract, and I always make sure like I under promise and over deliver.
Yes.
With every, I do every single thing that the contract says. And then sometimes like I'll get somebody, like I have an artist that's in the Philippines and he's amazing. And a part of his contract is he's supposed to get like a certain amount of books, like he gets a royalty, and then he gets a certain amount of books in which he could sell. Like I signed it for him, and then he goes to the Philippines and he sells those books, and he makes a nice amount of money. So like he's supposed to get a certain amount of books, and I'll throw in like an extra 10. And he's just like, oh, why did you do that? And I'm just like, because you're great, you're awesome. Like I didn't have to do that, but it's just like, so not only did I live up to my end of the contract, but like I did something to prove like that, like that person has value to me. That
sure.
So that's what I would say. Like if you're gonna start submitting manuscripts to places, you need to say like, oh, what kind of contracts do you guys offer? What's your royalty structure like? Are you salary based? Are you this? Are you that? Like, there's a lot of questions that you need to ask, because otherwise you'll get taken advantage of.
Yeah, and I could see that coming. And that, to me, it's always fine to have something written down and on paper. And it's like,
absolutely,
it's like let's have an expectation. Let's make sure I'm meeting your expectation, but you're also meeting mine.
Exactly, to protect both parties.
Yep,
absolutely. And that's why I tell people all the time. Like they're like, "Oh, do we really have to sign a contract?" I'm like, "Yes." It's to protect the both of us.
Right?
Yeah. So because I've had people go, "Oh, no, don't worry, I'll just do it for you." Like if they do a cover for us, "Oh, I'll just draw the cover. Don't worry." I'm like, "No, you're gonna get a PDF in your mail." In your email, just sign it, send it back over, blah, blah, blah. It's just confirming everything that we've discussed and stuff. It's just better that way.
Yeah, totally. Peace of mind.
Yeah. It doesn't work that way for my car or my home. So it's important enough there. So, Patrick, I'm going to give you the screen. I want you to share whatever you want with the audience tonight.
Sure. And I just want to show Jaime really quick. Check this out. So one of my readers gave this to me for my birthday last year. It is a Condry Game Boy.
Dude, that is legit.
The front and the back.
Oh
so
my
and
gosh.
It's a clean cell Game Boy, so it doesn't run on batteries. You just plug it in, it charges.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding
me. And I don't think it's not charged right now, but it has a backlit screen and stuff like that. It's so cool.
That is cool.
Wow. Okay. All right. Go.
So go. LegacyComix.com. Comix.com. Guys, we have about 25 books physical. We have about 32 books digitally. We ship worldwide. We have hard-boiled noir. We have fun action adventures. We have silly books. We have manga. We have all sorts of really cool books from amazing writers and artists. This company has survived thanks to amazing people taking a chance on us. There's not a book in our library that I think is subpar. I would totally love for you guys to check out our stuff. We also have trading cards. So I should have had one on me. It's crazy. So anyway, if you don't want a physical comic and you don't like digital and you want to have something to collect, we have basically trading cards. So it looks like the cover of the comic in the front, and then the back is a QR code. You scan that QR code in the back of the card, the comic will open up on your phone, on your tablet. Those are really cool. They're collectible. They're limited edition. There's small batches of them are being printed. So we have comics, cards, and we have digital comics for everybody. So that's Legacy Comix. I would love for you guys to check out our stuff. Like I said, we've got Conjury, we've got The Job, we've got The Legend of the Night Owl. I'm trying to look at all of our comics right now. We have Sarita. We have so many great books. Then the minds behind the games, guys. These books are like my love letter to both video games and journalism. If you love video games and if you're that person in GameStop that stops a little kid from buying a game and you want to just like explain the whole backstory of the game, I go like 20 steps further because I would basically speak to these developers and say, okay, most people get their information from like Reddit and Wikipedia. I know most of that stuff is wrong. So let's debunk all of this stuff before we start the interview. So like I went the extra step to get as much behind the scenes information to make those games matter to you as much as humanly possible. So that's the minds behind the games books. And then really quick, the voice acting stuff. I'm the lead voice actor on the Padre, on the Caillou Offensive. I just did 90 voices on WrestleQuest, which is an upcoming Japanese RPG that has over 30 licensed wrestling characters, including Diamond Dallas Page, Jerry the King Lawler. There's so many amazing wrestlers in this game. And it's like, if you like Earthbound, if you like Super Mario RPG, you'll love this. So it's like those games with pro wrestling. So super, super cool, super, super fun. Booker T is in the game. Like, oh my God, there's so many cool wrestlers in there. So voice acting, journalism, and comic books. Check me out. I'm on Instagram at Patrick Hickey Jr. Follow me, talk to me. I love talking to people. That's pretty much it. Somebody was just looking at The Job. I saw that.
I think Jaime's speechless.
The Job is so much fun. That's the second issue. The second issue is coming out in about 3 weeks, but we also have a 1 in 50 variant cover for that, and it's just like, we call it the fight cover. It's really freaking cool. It's a black and white, just like of that guy's face all beat up after a wrestling match. It's so cool. Very Jaime, very David Finch kind of style. So yeah, really cool. So yeah, guys, I do a little bit of everything. I love this stuff. I tell my nephew all the time, I'm like, if you can't call me Uncle Patrick, then just call me King Geek, because I love all this stuff. So you're
celebrating your inner geekdom.
Absolutely.
Jaime, is he muted?
I think he's muted. Yeah.
I think you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There you go.
Sorry.
Yes.
I was going to say, I can't help but notice or comment on how your main character looks a lot like, he reminds me of David Haller. And I think it's just the high top.
He's a combination of a couple of pro wrestlers, of a couple of
okay.
Yeah. So, but I will say that this is like the Job is basically like, if you guys have ever seen the movie Heat and the movie Point Break, if you mix that with like Two Broke Girls, like that like, so like the girl Beverly, she is basically like, to me, she's like Kat Dennings in comic book form. She's just like this beautiful, like wise ass, and her husband robs banks and she helps him, so it's just like, it's so much fun. It's such a fun comic.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Patrick, I am beyond thrilled that you got to hang out with us tonight. Dr. Ben, I'm glad you were here too. I know we are going a little bit over, and I'm sorry for that, but I can honestly say that there's no part in today's show that I felt bored or was like not entertained. Man, you brought me to tears with a list, Patrick. I don't think anyone in the history of the Social and Distancing show has been able to bring me to tears.
I think this is
with
a
the list of
T-Suds
video
first.
games.
Yeah.
Yes.
That Jaime openly wept.
Yeah.
And thank you for that, because like and it's hard, like when you're a writer, you don't know how people feel about your work, you know.
Man,
so
you're
I mean, I've done
touching.
cons.
It's so cool. Oh, I could just keep going. Let me just say real quick. You like being able to be at the age that we're at right now, and you bringing the stuff when we were kids and talking about it in such an adult way now that we can see, and you know what I mean? It just adds another layer to our childhood, man. Now it's not just about enjoying those game times in front of the TV and with our friends and things like that, but you're bringing us this layer that we had no clue existed. And man, I appreciate you so much for doing that, for putting a spotlight on others who made our childhood such a fun time and had such a heavy influence.
Well, especially pre-internet games, right?
Yes.
Because any game before what, like 90, 3, 4, 5. I mean, you couldn't read about it, essentially, right? You couldn't read the backstory even if you wanted to. So
yeah, good point. So thank you, Patrick, for coming on tonight. I will have you back. So I will tell you, Sandy, who's not here tonight, she loves wrestling, and she's more of an aficionado on wrestling than I ever knew she ever was. So we will definitely have you back on, and we will let you talk about the voice acting piece, and maybe we'll be able to throw in a couple other pieces. But outside of that, go for it. Go.
This weekend, I will in Chicago.
Yes,
I will be in the video games at the Video Game Summit. It's a video game con. I'm a special guest there. I'm gonna have a table set up with all the Legacy Comix there. I'm gonna try and bring. I probably have like 5 or 6 copies of different Minds Behind the Games books with me. Flying in from Brooklyn, and I'm gonna be there for the day. And it's gonna be a lot of fun.
You might like it, Dr. Ben. You and Natalia could go up to Chicago this weekend. The tickets are only like $10 at the door.
Actually, I'm making a mental note only because I will be up there then.
Oh.
Yeah. So my in-laws are flying
from
in.
like 10 to 5 or something like that.
Yeah, my in-laws are flying in, so I will be up there that day.
Okay, maybe.
So if I can break away from the pack, if I can slide out for a while, I certainly will.
It sounds fun. It's a whole video. It's a video game extravaganza, Chicago. So, all right. Thank you so much, everyone. Join us here next week where Joe and Sandy and I have a guest. It very well might be Patrick again. We don't know. We'll see. But if not, he definitely will return. Thank you, everyone, for coming to hang out with us tonight. I know there's some last-minute comments in there. But everyone, we love you. Have a great week and be kind to someone out there. Thank you, Patrick. Dr. Ben, we'll talk to you later. Stay there.